All right, since most of you guys are teenagers in this room, I assume a lot of you have TikTok. And a popular sound on TikTok right now is called Mad at Disney, where the artist kind of blames Disney for her high expectations for love and boys. And I'm going to show you just how common this phenomenon is. 50% of you guys said that you watch Disney movies on a regular basis. So I'm going to try and show you that maybe these characters have affected you and they also affect other young children. I also grew up watching Disney movies, especially Disney princess movies, and I also went to Disney World, so I'm pretty well acquainted with Disney culture. I also did extensive research with college studies at BYU and also through scientific journals from industry professionals. The main thing I hope you guys take away from this is that these Disney princesses are negatively affecting young boys and young girls. And I'm going to show you this by telling you the history of Disney, how they negatively affect young boys and girls, and what's currently being done to change the stigma that these princesses create. All right, let's start with the history of Disney princesses. So in a research paper done by James Madison University, the author says that there are three main eras of Disney princesses. The first being like Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, and Cinderella. These were created in the early to mid 1900s, and they kind of have dated messages, but they can still stick with young children. The second era of princesses would be like The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, and Aladdin. And this is kind of the most common era of princesses. When I asked you guys your favorite princesses, a lot of you guys said princesses from this era. And these are created in the like 80s to 90s. And they also have that saved by the prince and gorgeous looks that little girls look up to. The most recent era of princesses would be like Merida, Moana, and Elsa. And society kind of praises these princesses for being more independent and self-reliant, but they still have those high beauty standards that can affect young girls. All right, now that we know a little bit more about Disney princess history, let's talk about how these characters negatively affect young boys and young girls. So Disney is a pretty big part of the entertainment industry right now, and children are constantly watching these movies. In a study done by BYU life professor Sarah Cohn, she studied 198 young children, asking them and studying if they associated with princess culture. Now this basically just means they buy the merchandise, play with the toys, and watch the movies of princesses. So 96% of young girls were shown to associate with princess culture, and even 80% of boys. And with these who associate, she noticed two main problems. The first being harmful gender stereotypes. Young girls, the ages 4 to 6, already thought that they couldn't be as good as boys, they couldn't be as smart as boys. And as they grew up and got to be older, they thought they needed to be dependent on boys because they couldn't be good enough. And that kind of just leads to negative relationships in the future. The second problem she noticed was self-esteem issues and body issues. So once again, these are young girls, 4 to 6, thought they weren't pretty enough and weren't skinny enough. Like maybe some of you girls, I know I did, had that one princess, you're like, oh, she's gorgeous, I want to be just like her. And maybe we didn't live up to those expectations, and that kind of makes you sad. Now let's not forget about that 87% of boys who also associate with princess culture. Now these boys look up to the princesses, and maybe you guys had that princess that you were like, oh, she's gorgeous, I want her to be my girlfriend. And that just kind of that just sets high standards for what they think their significant other needs to look like, and that brings pressure on girls to think that they're not good enough as well. All right, now that we know more about how these characters negatively affect young girls and boys, let's talk about what's being done to change the stigma that these characters create. So I'm not saying that we need to forget about the princesses of the future or of the past and the present. I'm just saying we need to implement the idea that these beauty standards are not real and that they are fiction. Author Peggy Orenstein from the New York Times bestseller list from her book Cinderella Ate My Daughter talks about how we need to talk to our children about how these characters are not real. They're just girls on a page. Like, we can't live up to these expectations because it's fake, it's fiction. Now on Disney's part, they are creating this new generation of princesses that are more independent and self-reliant and non-dependent on men. So for example, we have Merida, who goes on this journey to show her mother that she don't need no man to rule the country. And then we also have Mulan, who fights in place of her father to show young girls that they too can be strong and independent. So also with Disney, they teamed up with this nonprofit called Girl Up to create this campaign called Dream Big Princess. And this just kind of empowers young girls to dream big and follow their dreams, especially when it comes to leadership roles and film roles, because they want more women and more girls in those industries. All right, like most Disney princess movies, this has to come to a happy ending. So as sad as it may seem, these Disney princesses are negatively affecting young boys and young girls. And I showed you this by showing you the history of Disney princesses, how they negatively affect young boys and girls, and what's currently being done to change the stigma that these princesses create. So next time you watch like The Little Mermaid or Moana, I hope you're also a little mad at Disney. Thank you.